Before the classrooms and the parties and the quiet exits, there was always the same feeling following me around. The sense that I didn't quite fit in anywhere that I landed. It showed up early, subtle at first, like an itch you can't locate. I remember standing in groups and feeling slightly misaligned, as if everyone else had been given a map and I'd missed the day where it was handed out. No matter where I went, there was this quiet awareness that I was just adjusting myself to the room, instead of the room adjusting to me. I learned quickly that blending in required effort. Mirroring energy, copying expressions, softening my presence, and even then, it never felt convincing. I could pass as normal, agreeable, present, but never fully included. There was always a half step of distance, a sense that if I stopped trying for even a moment, I'd be exposed as someone who didn't belong. That constant self-monitoring became exhausting, and it also became familiar, like a background noise as I stopped questioning. Long before I had words for it, I carried the belief that fitting in was something other people did naturally, and something I would always have to work for or live without. As I got older, that feeling sharpened into something more specific and more painful. I couldn't seem to make friends the way that others did, and the idea of having a girlfriend almost felt unreal, like imagining a life that belonged to someone else. Friendships around me formed quickly, casually. People exchanged numbers, made plans, and became closer without even overthinking it. I watched it happen and wondered, what invisible step am I missing? I wanted connection, intimacy, someone who chose me deliberately, but I never knew how to move from polite conversations into something real. When it came to relationships, the gap felt even wider because I didn't know how to signal interest without feeling exposed, how to flirt without feeling like I was pretending to be someone braver, louder, more confident than I actually was. So I stayed on the sidelines, telling myself I wasn't ready, that I needed to work on myself first, while secretly fearing that maybe I just wasn't the kind of person people fell for. Wanting closeness but not knowing how to reach for it became a quiet ache I carried alone. One that made nights feel longer and the future feel more uncertain. Like love was a world I could see but didn't have the passport to enter. I learned early on that crowds were not made for people like me, or at least that's how I felt standing amongst them. There was always this invisible wall between me and everyone else, something I couldn't see but constantly bumped into. Rooms filled with people seemed to hum with an energy I couldn't tune into, like a radio station slightly out of range. I could hear the noise, feel the vibration, but the message never came through clearly. It wasn't that I disliked people. I wanted connection more than I knew how to admit. I watched others with a quiet fascination, the way friendships formed so effortlessly, how laughter spilled out without hesitation, and how people leaned into conversations as if they had every right to take up space. They seemed fluent in a language I'd never been taught. I knew the words but not the timing, not the rhythm, not the confidence to speak them out loud. Growing up, I learned how to disappear in plain sight. I perfected neutrality. I knew which desk to choose, which hallway to take, how to look busy enough to avoid being noticed, but normal enough to avoid concern. When teachers said, "Find a partner," my stomach dropped. Not because I didn't want one, but because wanting didn't mean knowing how to ask. I often waited too long, pretended to tie my shoe, or flip through a notebook, until I was the last one left and assigned by default. Trying to be myself felt risky. The few times I let something genuine slip, a passion, a strange thought, a quiet opinion, I'd watch faces carefully for signs of confusion or disinterest. Sometimes they came, sometimes they didn't. But the uncertainty alone was enough to teach me to retreat. I began editing myself in real time, filtering thoughts before they even reached my mouth. I learned how to be palatable instead of real. Crowds amplified everything I feared. The noise, the overlapping conversations, the unspoken rules about when to jump in and when to laugh, it all happened too fast. I stood there holding a drink I didn't want, nodding at conversations I wasn't really a part of, and counting the minutes until I could leave without it seeming rude. I rehearsed sentences in my head like lines in a play, but when the moment came, my voice felt out of place, like it belonged to someone else. Making friends always felt like arriving late to something important. Everyone else seemed bonded by shared memories, inside jokes, stories I've never heard of. I didn't know where to enter or how to contribute without interrupting. I waited to be invited in, and when it didn't happen, I told myself I preferred solitude anyway. That lie became kind of a shield. If I claimed I didn't need people, it hurts less when they don't choose me. At home, I replayed interactions endlessly. Every pause, every awkward smile, everything I almost said. I imagined different versions of myself, the one who spoke freely, who didn't overanalyze tone or timing, or trusted that their presence was enough. I wondered how it must feel to walk into a room without shrinking, without adjusting yourself to fit whatever shape seemed safest. Over time, I started to confuse being alone with being at peace. Solitude meant I didn't have to explain myself or perform. It was quiet, predictable, safe, but it was also heavy. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from knowing you're capable of connection but unable to access it. I could be surrounded by people and still feel entirely unseen, like I was watching life through a window instead of living inside of it. The hardest part wasn't the isolation, it was the feeling that the truest version of me was trapped somewhere deep inside, waiting for permission. I kept telling myself I'd be different someday, more confident, more social, easier to like. I treated who I was as a temporary flaw instead of a valid way of existing. It took a long time to realize that fitting in isn't the same as belonging. Fitting in asks you to shrink, to blend, to sand yourself down until you're unrecognizable. Belonging asks you to show up as you are and trust that the right people will meet you there. I had been chasing the first, exhausted and disappointed, when what I needed was the courage to try the second. I still struggle in crowds, I still hesitate before speaking, but I've started choosing depth over numbers, quiet over chaos, honesty over acceptance. I'm learning that connection doesn't always happen in loud rooms, it often happens in one-on-one conversations, in shared silences, in moments where nothing needs to be performed. Maybe I'll never be someone who moves easily through crowds or makes friends without effort. Maybe my path is slower, narrower, quieter, but it's real. And for the first time, I'm beginning to believe that being myself, awkward pauses, overthinking, and all isn't something I need to fix. It's something I need to protect.